Hello everyone, today I will be showing you how to restring your cello. So fixing your instrument can be kind of scary. It is very fragile. You may be afraid to do things like restringing and maybe fixing your bridge and things, but once I figured out how to restring my cello, it saved me a lot of money and a lot of trouble. So today I will teach you how to restring it yourself. Let's get started by gathering materials. So the first step is getting your materials. So it's a very basic list of materials. Of course, you will need a new string. So always research and keep looking for strings that you think you would like. Finding the right setup, which means what strings and materials you put on your cello to get it the best sound that you want, is a lifelong process, and especially when you get older, sometimes you want to buy a better and more expensive cello. So it's really a process. So guys, my setup, what I like to do is do Yargar strings on my A and D, and then Spiracore on my C and my G strings. So of course you need your strings, or one, however many you are replacing. So here's how they're usually packaged in a little square thing. And there's my string. Although this is a broken string, for today's demonstration, I am not going to actually restring my cello. I'm just going to show you parts of the cello that you need to know about, because it will save me a lot of trouble. The next material you will need is this little handy thing called peg grip. It is a glue-like substance. It's kind of like watered down wood glue, and you use this, you just screw off the tap, looks like that, on your pegs, which are these things, and you squirt a little bit in the crevice of the pegs to keep your pegs still from moving, so your strings do not keep loosening. Because new strings are tight, they like to pull on your pegs and loosen them, so you want to make sure to stretch those strings out and keep them still. Okay, the next step is you need to know how to remove your old strings, or string singular. So the first step is always, here's a side tip, always, if you're doing all your strings or several strings, do one string at a time. That means if you take them all off, your bridge right here will fall off, and unless you're very experienced, it is hard to get it back in the right place and position right, and it's very important for it to be positioned right. So one string at a time. Now, the first step to taking a string off is you want to first unwind your string. So that means taking a peg and pushing this way, downwards on the peg, so the string will become loosened. Then you will want to make sure it uncoils completely, and up here, as you can see, there's a little hole in the peg where you thread your string through. You want to make sure and pull it out of that hole. And then there's these little slots right here, right above your fine tuners. You want to pull it out of there, and your string's off. There you go. Now, once you've done that, now it's time for the next step. The next step is putting your new string on. To put your new string on, you want to basically reverse the process you just did. So we want to take this string, I'll show you, and you don't want to do this end, obviously, because it won't fit through the hole in your peg. So you do it on this end, and you want to take this end and thread it through the hole in your peg. And once it's through, you want to start tightening the string. So by pulling your peg this way. When restringing, the A and the D string and the C and the G string, so your top two strings and your C and your G, they the string winds in different directions depending on which ones you're doing. So for the A and the D, which will be on your furthest left side, as you can see, they coil. If you're holding your cello like this, they coil to the left. So you want to make sure and keep the coil very even and very tight, close together, as you can see as my cello is, and make sure it coils that direction. And once it's tight, but this part of the string is not too far up, you want to hook it onto this little slot right here. So just hook it on there, and then make sure to hold your string so nothing falls out, and keep tightening it until it's good and secure. And then, if you're doing all your strings, of course, repeat these steps, take it off, then put it back on for each string until all of them are done. Okay. Also, if it feels like your peg doesn't want to tighten or stick, make sure to remember we have our peg glue right here. All you have to do is pull your peg out just a little bit outwards and put a few drops, and then keep tightening and it will dry and help your peg stick. Okay, now everyone, this is our final step. Our final step is to tune our strings. So if you're not very experienced, well, I take that back, everyone. Everyone should use a tuner to help them out tune their strings, but more experienced players can tune them easier and quicker. Now, make sure to get a tuner out. For me, I find it much easier I have a tuner that will play long tones, so it will play the note I am tuning for a long time, which really helps out, especially if you're just sitting there trying to tune and make your peg stick. It really helps you hear. So, we need to tune our strings, so I always start A, and then I go D, then G, then C. So I go down, and oh yes, everyone, before you start tuning with your pegs, make sure to loosen your fine tuners, pro tip, because you'll find after not peg tuning for a while, your fine tuners will get pretty tight from using them often, and you want them to be loose so you can keep using them. So unwind, which means turn them this way, your fine tuners, and then peg tune for the most part. Get it very close, get each string very close to almost in tune, and then you want to go back and tune a second time with your pegs. Yes, I know, this seems like a lot, but make sure once you're done tuning all 4 of your strings, your strings that you tune first will probably have slipped out of tune again. That is because usually cellos do not like to be messed with very much, and they get fussy at us and they slip out of tune again. So make sure to go back over all your strings again and tune them. Make sure they're all in tune. And then once each string is very close, make sure to use your fine tuners to finally get it all back together. Okay, now you have completely restrung your cello and it is all in tune and ready to go. Let's review our steps. First is gathering your materials. So new strings, peg grip, and oh yes, make sure to have packaging like this. You can use the ones that you got your new strings in to put your old strings in, because you never know if there's an accident, you need an old string. So a place to put your old strings, your new strings, of course, and your peg grip. Then take off your string. Remember the steps I taught you. And then to put on your new string, make sure to do each string at a time if you're doing all your strings. And then finally, tune your strings. Now, you know how to tune restring your cello. This is a very helpful tool if you're a string player and a cello player to be able to do this. It saves you a lot of money, and especially if you go to college, you can do it yourself pretty easily without having to spend money. of course. And it's just a good tool to have, especially if you have an emergency. So I hope you can carry on the skill and show some other friends. Thank you.